And I have the honor and privilege of serving as the Executive Director of the Ebell of Los Angeles. And on behalf of our Board of Directors and all of our members, it is an extraordinary honor and pleasure to welcome you all here tonight. Just out of curiosity, how many of you, this is your first time coming to the Ebell? Raise your hand. Love it, love it. Now you're stuck with us. I want to welcome you and invite you to look around a little bit at this beautiful, historic campus. And I would even say more than even just historic, I might even say hallowed campus. Amelia Earhart was born in 1897. But 3 years before she was born, a small group of bold women came together here in Los Angeles, and they formed an organization through which they hoped to change the world. These were women who were denied the right to vote, for whom most avenues of career or education were tightly shut. And then in 1927, they built this glorious campus. This was their 7th campus. They blazed trails and built their own opportunities to create, to learn, to advocate, and to lead. They understood that you cannot be what you cannot see. And in these rooms of their own, they recreated themselves as creative, essential, civically engaged, and, I like this part, in charge. Art, culture, education, and service were their vehicles of choice. Our mission has remained the same for nearly 130 years. It is to inspire women and to build community, again, through arts, culture, education, and service, and through the stewardship of this beautiful historic campus and all of its collections, a tiny smidge of which you can see on exhibit tonight. I'm quoting a past president, Helen Reed, when she dedicated and described the Ebell as a place that was dedicated to women coming together to think, to plan, and to work. Or to put another way, to creatively build a better future for all. Again, tonight, on behalf of the Ebell membership community, we are thrilled to welcome all of you. We hope that you too will consider joining us as members and help us enable the women and girls of Los Angeles for their imaginations and their aspirations to take flight. And to sweeten the deal, if anybody wants to join tonight, I'm going to waive the administrative fee. So how's that for a little more? Come on, you know you want to join. And when you join, you really become a steward of that mission. You're part of the community that is a steward of that mission and of this campus and of its collections. And you become part of the kaleidoscope of programs and fascinating conversations that are all flourishing here at the Ebell. And in other words, again, all this is yours. Finally, again, thank you to all of you for being here tonight. We hope that you will always feel welcomed here and at the Ebell, and that we will see you many, many times. We need you. And the women and the girls of Los Angeles need the Ebell. So thank you. It's a great pleasure to welcome now to the wee little stage tonight's chair, the chair of this program. It was really her vision. Please join me in welcoming Phyllis Hansen.
Hey, how about this? This is pretty exciting and very special occasion for so many reasons. Amelia Earhart is dear to all of us at the Ebell, since she was right here speaking to to us in April of 1937, prior to her fateful flight a month later. It is believed this was the last public speaking engagement that she gave. Her talk here was sponsored by the United Airlines, and perhaps this helped her fund her expenses en route. Our ties here to Amelia are twofold. For our own Ebell member and program committee member, actor Sharon Lawrence, starred as Amelia Earhart in Star Trek Voyager, 1995. Sharon? Our plan for this evening is to begin our program discussion, and then we'll break for a birthday cake. And then, following the birthday cake singing, we will all join in. So get your singing voices ready. We will follow up with a Q&A session. And following the Q&A, you are invited to have a very tasty bite of birthday cake cooked by our own chef Tommy. And then we'll have a meet and greet and invite you to look some more at our displays, telling a little bit about Amelia's life that we have set up here, and including our own scrapbook from our archives. I want to thank our archives for getting all this information together and bringing down our scrapbook, and I want to thank our costume committee for putting up some typical garments from our collection that are reflective of the period. And they've also done some research. I bet you did not know that Amelia Earhart had her own fashion collection. Something that she developed in order to sponsor and get money for her flight. It was a very expensive proposition for them, and they had a lot of sponsors all over the world to help them enact this. So I want to thank also, I'd like to thank my co-chair for this event. We'll meet later, Alicia Savanian. And I want to acknowledge Phoebe Piper, who is the person that, in a sense, is responsible for this. She's a personal friend of mine, and she's a member of the Adventurers Club of LA, and that's how I got introduced to our speaker tonight, Lloyd Romeo. And at this point, it's my privilege to introduce our moderator this evening, Rosa Bravo, and our speaker, Lloyd Romeo. Rosa is a new board member of the Ebell, and she's also a technology expert, a strategic advisor in the government sector, and she holds a degree in aerospace and spent a decade as an engineer. She tells us her favorite thing to do is to contemplate the night sky. Lloyd Romeo is originally from Long Island, New York. Having grown up with a father who was a pilot for Pan Am, Lloyd lived in Japan, Egypt, Yugoslavia, and Hong Kong. He received his pilot's license at age 20. He earned an aeronautics degree from Farmingdale, SUNY, and later studied microcomputer engineering at the University of California at Irvine. Lloyd retired in 2022 after 35 years of service as a controls engineer at industrial controls company Opto 22. Lloyd lives in Temecula, where he enjoys his hobby of building and flying radio control airplanes. When he is not exploring the ocean floor, you may find Lloyd climbing to the top of Mount Fuji or hiking to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. So I welcome to Rosa and to Lloyd and his lovely wife Hilda, who is also with us.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Phyllis. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being with us here today. I think we all have something in common, how much we really admire Amelia Earhart. And I think this conversation is going to be especially fun for those of us. I think we have something else I'm Rosa Bravo, a member of this wonderful organization, and today I have the privilege of having this conversation with this extraordinary gentleman, an explorer, who along with his brother and their team are on the verge of possibly confirming what may have happened to our globally beloved and inspiring Amelia Earhart. Lloyd, welcome to the Ebell, and thank you for joining us here this evening.
Thanks for having me. It's quite a pleasure to be here, an honor. It's not often you get to be in a venue quite this nostalgic and loaded with such rich history.
It's true. I've only been a member here for 5 years, and I'm still in awe of this room. Believe me, it's incredible history. Before we delve into your journey and exploration, let's talk a little bit about Amelia, the Renaissance woman. And before I do that, how many aviators do we have in the audience? Wonderful. Welcome. So, when did you get to know about Amelia?
You know, actually, my earliest memories of Amelia, the story, come from my mom. And she was interested in her history. Mom was always at the library checking out books, and she actually bought that one, so she took it fairly seriously. Of course, she looked at a lot of the conspiracy theories and so forth, and so that was some of my earlier memories of it. And yeah, I mean, she had been out there on Long Island where I grew up, and so had Charles Lindbergh. So, you know, that was kind of Navy. Oh, and then my father had worked for Pan Am, and her navigator, Fred Noonan, had laid out the routes for Pan Am. So there was always a little bit of a kind of connection to, you know, the whole aviation world. And the mystery always was there. We always wanted to know what happened. I never thought I'd be involved in it this deep.
And it sounds like there are a few more aviators in your family too.
There are. My sister had a pilot's license. My two other brothers. Yeah, my dad. Mom should have gone after it. But yeah, we were definitely an aviation family.
That's wonderful. Well, Amelia, what we've learned is Amelia got the bug for aviation around age 10 when she attended the Iowa State Fair. And then from there, she went on to high school. She also went to finishing school. This woman was truly a Renaissance person. Finishing school, but yet still we know that she was quite the tomboy.
She, you know, I just had the pleasure of visiting Atchison, Kansas, just last week for her birthday. Well, today's her birthday, but they had the celebration for her birthday last weekend, so I feel like I'm kind of stalking her here. I always see the places that she's been. But we got to visit the actual house that she grew up in until she was 14, and there was the top of the porch was right there, you know, outside of her bedroom, and she was known to crawl out there and kind of escape and roll down the hill. And when she her first time in a roller coaster, she was so impressed that she actually built her own. Okay, and there was a hill that she would fly down, and this is like a 12, 13-year-old, you know, she's doing this kind of stuff. So she was, even from the beginning, she was an adventurer. She wanted to push the limits.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. As we started, Phyllis is the person who filled us in on everything Amelia, which is incredible. She did a deep dive into Amelia. But here, you know, here's some photographs that we found. You know, Amelia was born in Atchison, Kansas. And by the way, did you learn anything that we don't know about while you were out there?
Well, you know, it was more of like the feel of where she grew up, you know, the type of humble beginnings. I learned that, yeah, you know, her parents were a little bit on the marginal side, you know, so she had a tough upbringing. She had to make do, and I think part of that is where she got her willfulness, you know, her stubbornness, her you know, her drive to do something and just to never give up. You know,
yeah.
Whenever she went after something, she was all in it. She didn't let anything get in her way. She went after it.
And yet always gracious and kind.
Very gracious person. A lot of reading about her, I never find where she really said anything bad about anyone. Though you can imagine when the navigator missed the car by 60 miles, perhaps there was spirited conversations.
I would think so. Amelia had a younger sister, Muriel, that's correct. And she was, I believe she was studying in Canada when Amelia visited her. And I think they were very young. They were both at finishing school, and Amelia went to visit her. And that's when, during World War I believe, and she started to really understand, the plight of the veterans, and she became a nurse's aide. And this is a woman who then became a social worker, a nurse, and she just gave back, always giving back to the community.
Yeah, you read a lot in her different books that she did a lot of traveling, not just this last trip where she tried to go around the equator, but a lot of places she went. She was very concerned about the plight of women in a lot of these different countries, where she felt they took an undue share of the physical burden of work and labor and stuff and things. So she was very concerned about that.
But always keeping in mind flight.
Oh, that was a passion. Yeah.
So here's our first airplane. This is her. So Canada likes to own Amelia, and Kansas is where she was born, but LA loves to own her too because she got her first plane ride here in Long Beach. Her father paid $10 for 10 minutes in December of 20th, 1920. And then that shortly thereafter, she started taking flying lessons, and she insisted on a female instructor. Absolutely, always really thinking about women.
Yeah, I think she was something like the 14th woman to get her pilot's license, or something like that, very early on.
Well, a year later, that was when she was around 24. At age 25, for her birthday, she bought her first airplane. Yeah. So, and then there's also, all the things that we know. In 1928, she was the first woman to cross the Atlantic Ocean. At that point, she was a passenger in a plane known as the Friendship. And then in 1929, she helped found the 99s, which is an organization for female aviators. Are there any 99s here? Yes, stand up! Wonderful! This is an incredible organization, a global organization. And Amelia was elected president in 1931. Of the 117 licensed women pilots, 99 became chartered members, which is how they got their name. And then shortly thereafter, she married her husband, George Putnam, who is an American publisher. And then we know that in 1932, she was the first woman to make a nonstop solo transatlantic flight. And here's where I think we begin your story too. So there's a picture of Amelia, and here's one with her navigator. Thank you.
Yeah, that's Fred Noonan there. Both of these pictures I had colorized on the expedition. I was called the chief Googler, and so I would go over these things. And so I found an AI program that would colorize these, and it just amazes me how much more to life, contemporary the pictures look colorized these days. It's a good process. And I do like to remember Fred Noonan. He's kind of the unsung hero behind the scenes. I mean, he was there too, and a lot of times he's overlooked. So I do like to remember old Fred. He was a world-class navigator. He had laid out all the specific routes for Pan Am back in the day. And so of course he was less than 37. My dad started working for Pan Am in 43. So obviously never knew him. However, I'm sure he knew folks that did know him. And I wish he was around and could ask him about that. But yeah, that's not going to happen.
What kinds of instruments did he have available to him at the time? What was navigation like?
not explaining what a sunline is. The sunline is, as the sun comes up in the morning, it draws a line across the earth. And if by doing a sunshot, you can tell how far you are from that, and then you can calculate your position. And it's a line of position, it's not a point. So you know you're somewhere along a long line. And so there's dead reckoning, and then there's that line. And that's what the sextant does. Now, there was also some radio navigation that ultimately failed.
So this is where we're going to continue down our story here. This is the Electra.
That's the Electra 10E. This is, I think this is actually from real flight. I don't think that's it's a computer-generated graphic, but it's really beautiful, so I included it. It's all shiny and pretty and exactly the way it should be, so I included it so you can see what it looks like. It's really a beautiful airplane. It kind of has an Art Deco look to it, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah, it's very 30s.
Describe what it's like on the inside so we can...
It's very tight inside. It's supposed to hold, I believe, 10 passengers. The cockpit is very cramped. It's got a hatch right above the pilot's seat, and then there's a door all the way in the back. The view out of it is not good. You know, those two engines are like right there and there. So, you know, I'm sure this kind of played into it because they were looking for island, obviously, and I can see those low wings and the engines being right square in their way. Yeah, it's not a lot of airplane, really. You know, when you go out there in the ocean and you look at this thing and you're like, you're really a speck. You're really out there. But like I said, it's a beautiful airplane. It was built by Lockheed and by legendary aircraft designer Kelly Johnson, who made quite a name for himself for quite a few years afterwards.
That's really interesting to know. Do we know how many are left?
Well, okay, 149 Lockheed Electras were built. I think there's like 14 or 15 10Es, which was the last and best model. And according to the museum, they have the last one out there in Atchison, Kansas. And if everybody gets out to Atchison, Kansas, I highly recommend going to visit it.
So we know now the craft, we know the navigator, and now let's talk a little bit about that route. What we know is that she took off from Oakland Airport on May 21st, 1937, and requested to fly around the equator route and headed east. So this is a picture that we're pre-World War II. There's a lot of activity happening in that region.
Yeah, so she took off there from Hawaii and rented the airplane. And there's some different speculation as to exactly what happened, but the airplane was unflyable, so they had to bring it to Oakland and have Lockheed fix it. So at that point, they had planned to go from Honolulu to Howland Island first. But after the crash, they changed the plans and went the other way.
So they hit Miami, so they went to Miami, the Miami, Nobel, Dakar, then
Correct.
and then went to Karachi,
Right.
Singapore, Darwin, and then they reached Leh on June 29th.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to point out that I found out from reading one of Fred Noonan's letters just a couple of years ago, somebody happened upon Fred Noonan's letters in their attic. Okay, Mom passed away, and letters that he had written to her were sitting there, and he gave them to the Museum of Aerospace down in San Diego, and I think we brought up copies of them here, copies, PDFs. Anyway, to look at them, and anyway, he describes the last leg, it was the last thing he ever wrote, and he was in a monsoon for like 3 or 4 hours sitting in the back of the airplane, and they were getting pelted by so much water and so hard that he said that the paint was coming off of the wings. So it was a grueling flight.
So what was new for me researching and actually reading the information he gave us was that Alicia and I were discussing, they were over 95% done with the roof. I was never aware, I just didn't realize that she was almost home.
Just by that much. And believe it or not, and most of the folks I've talked to, the serious explorers, they believe that if she had continued and gone west to Howland first, they probably would have had an easier time of it, probably would have made it.
So she disappeared on July 2nd.
I'm sorry?
She disappeared on July 2nd, is what we know.
Right, it's kind of interesting. Probably the only person in the world that was alive on July 3rd but died on the 2nd. Because of the date.
Interesting. So now, what got you interested in finding?
Well, I'm going to blame it on my brother. Anthony, he got into, hold that slide for a second. He got into magnet fishing during the pandemic, and they were pulling up, scissors and pocket knives and all kinds of stuff. And his son asked him, "Hey, what else is down there? Is Amelia down there someplace?" And then he's like, yeah, whatever. And then he comes back with a report on Amelia Earhart from school. He was like, oh, interesting. And then he ran into a book, Amelia Earhart, that had been sitting around the house, and he's like, they're trying to tell me something here. And so we started looking into it, and he starts talking to me about it, and I'm kind of like, we're just talking hypothetically, right? And he says, well, no, let's look at what kind of equipment it would take to do this. And I'm like, okay. Well, we started investigating, and we considered different, what you call AUVs, so autonomous underwater vehicles. And we found the Hugin 6000. And so we started negotiating and to buy one. And he dissolved, well, he should have dissolved. He sold off his real estate business and started the AUV business.
So let's back up a little bit.
Did I skip something?
No. This is amazing. This is fascinating, right? So this was roughly around 2020 when
We started, 2020, 2021.
we started having this conversation.
Yeah.
And so your background is engineering?
Right, and right about that time, I was starting to get to the point where I was ready to do another chapter myself called retirement. It really hasn't been a retirement, not in the truest sense of the word. But we started working on this thing, and off we went.
So magnet fishing leads to research. So what was involved in your research?
Well, we looked at the area around Howland Island, and we always believed that she sank around at Howland Island. The water is about 5,200 meters deep, so a little over 5 kilometers. So we needed something that could go down at least that far. And the Hugin 6000 could go to 6,000 meters. So that was really kind of the big one. And then also the best technology was from Kongsberg at the time, the best sonar technology. So we got that.
That's interesting. I know that there's been so much said about these conspiracy theories. Did you look at all of that as you were?
We considered a lot of them. Yeah, we did. But the evidence that it really is hard to refute is the radio logs from the USS Itasca. Because those radio operators were sitting there and talking. Well, they were talking to her, but she wasn't hearing them. But they were hearing her. And they wrote down things that she said, like, we're 200 miles out, we're 100 miles out, we're on the line 1337, 137. She's telling them where they are, and says, we're on you, but we can't see you. So.
What's really interesting, too, that we read was that neither she nor Fred knew Morse code.
Right, the Itasca is sending the Morse code, and they're talking, there was kind of a tragedy, a comedy of mistakes, the things that quite line up. And But yeah, on the other hand, you have to realize that airplane, ship communications hadn't been done hardly ever before. So, you know, the first try, it's not surprising things didn't go well.
What kind of permissions did you need as you started to, you know, as this project started to become a reality? Who did you need to speak with? Were there governments?
We had to talk to a lot of folks. Yeah, we talked to the superintendent of Howland Island, and we found out we're not allowed on the island. So it's a bird sanctuary, and we had to stay off that. But that's okay. We knew that she wasn't on the island. We had to go through the State Department to buy the CV-6000 because they don't want it to go to bad actors. So, you know, it's like, oh, you're going to look for Earhart, sure. So yeah, that took a lot of things. Of course, Anthony was a intelligence officer in the Air Force. So
On your team? Yeah.
What's that?
Anthony's on your team?
My brother.
Oh, your brother, Anthony,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, and so I think that may have helped. He had a security clearance.
That helps a lot.
You would think, yeah. But there was still some red tape, and there was still the State Department, and there was still delays. But he untangled a lot of that.
Well, I'm going to hand you the clicker so you can take us through the story of exploration.
Okay, well, so this is the company he started, Deep Sea Vision. I think he had some folks on the internet draw up the logo for him. Let me see. Okay, this is where the expedition where we all went. Well, he left from South Carolina, but the very first thing was to go to Norway to learn how to use the equipment.
And that took place around 2022, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, we had to go to Norway in December.
which you will see in a minute.
Yeah. We never saw the sun. The same snow that we saw when we got there was still there when we left. Incredible. But anyway, then after 3 weeks in Norway and then getting everything together, they'll, you know, you pay that much for an AUV, they'll ship it wherever you want. And so we had shipped to Papua New Guinea there.
Can we ask you how much it cost?
Sure.
Okay.
$7 million. Yeah.
Can we have a ride? Actually, we'll see it. We'll see it later. But no one goes in the actual AUVs.
Yeah, my daughter asked me about that. Just to be clear, you're not getting in this thing, right? And, you know, this is right after that Ocean Week thing, and I was like, yeah, I'm not interested in getting wet. Yeah, you know, I just would stay high and dry on the boat. You know. So we went from the boat went from Papua New Guinea, the same place that Amelia left from. It went to Tarawa. All of us rendezvoused with the boat in Tarawa. Nice place to hang out for a little bit of time. And then we went to Howland. We had to bounce back to Tarawa to get some work done. Back to Howland, or to Tuvalu to get more work done. And food. We went to get some fresh vegetables. And then been home, Samoa and Fiji, and then back here. So we got a little traveling in. This is what Norway looked like when we got there. And I was amazed that that's all the dampness I saw around after that. It was all that. Very pretty place, great folks, food is very good. If you like salmon, that's a great place. Yeah, very Christmassy, December. Yeah, a lot of fun. It's a neat place. It's just, I think this place might have been more fun during the summer because this was like a beach town. Believe it or not, you know. Okay. So there we are. This is they were working on the unit as we were learning about it, and we could go. Now they build these things one at a time. It's not an assembly line. They build them one at a time, and then they incrementally get better and better every time. And now would be a good time for the sizzle tape.
Yes.
Okay, ready for the sizzle tape, I think.
I'll show you a video.
Can we turn it down? gets together in Tarawa, and off we go.
Tell us a little bit about your crew. Who is?
Yeah, okay, well, to start off on the far left there is Mahesh. He's our Indian programmer from India. Before he showed up in Norway, he'd never seen snow before. But he was still a good sport about doing the snow angel in the snow. But then we brought him out there in the ocean. He had never got swimming before, so we made sure that he wore a life jacket when he went overboard.
That's good.
And then Harold's the next one over there. He was from Kongsberg. Excellent sonar guy. He did a lot of graphics magic that I'll show you later. Next to him is Craig, another Scotsman. He's another phenomenal sonar guy. He's the guy that actually was tweaking the things and optimized it and did a phenomenal job. And I have to give him credit. One time the AUV quit on us. The batteries went dead. And we found out 9% was really 0%. So it floats up to the top. And there it is, light blinking, come get me, can't move. He doesn't hesitate. Rips off his clothes, jumps on in, swims over, grabs it, and tows it back to the boat. That's a good employee. And then the guy next to him, that's Anthony, my brother, kind of hiding behind the beard and the hat. And then John, another good guy, another Scotsman. I know a little bit about Scotch culture out there, by the way.
The culture or Scotch?
Yes. Well, I'll tell you about the culture. But John, he's the one that was underneath the hood of that EUV. He could tear it all the way down to basic components and put it all the way back together again. We're very good at it. And by the way, those two Scotsmen, they were both on that Geo doing Loch Ness Monster.
The Loch Ness Monster?
Yeah, actually, they were, well, there was a speedboat that was down there that they found. So it was kind of neat that they found it. And then there's Corey. Can't forget Corey. Corey, he did a lot of stuff, taking care of a lot of things, not the least of which gave me a haircut.
How did you find all these folks?
Mostly they were friend of Anthony's, except for the two Scots guys. He found them in a bar having a beer. Seriously, he was talking to us in Norway.
In Norway?
Yeah, they were working for Kongsberg, and he was telling them, we want to go find, Earhart. And they were like, really? And he goes, yeah, I'm starting a company, blah, blah, blah. He said, you want to come on? They did. Yeah, they did.
That's a great story.
Yeah, that's so then you recognize the guy on the right. So, next slide. Oh, and that is the boat. Yeah, the front half of the boat.
How big is that boat?
111 feet. So it's not really that big a boat.
Yeah. For that many folks that are.
Yeah, we were on there for 100 days, so yeah.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah. And the submersible, yeah. So, there we are in Tarawa, tied up to the dock, and beautiful sunsets all the time. And there's Anthony and Corey.
So just to give them a date, they took off from Fiji, was it August 30th?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
I think this is a video, if you want to see the boat from, we brought a drone along, of course. And so we got, you can see, that's the dining lounge area there, up through the windows on the bottom. And then the bridge is up there underneath the offshore is bigger lettering. And then up on top is the radar and stuff like that. And Tarawa is not a big island. It's, it's really hardly even an island. It's really an atoll. It's the top of a volcano, just sitting there. And the whole place has these shipping containers everywhere, and they use them for houses, for bars, for offices, for just about everything, because they're just all over the place. And so we had a great time to run around out there, and so kind of just a lonely Pacific island out in the middle of nowhere.
So then you were doing your mapping. Well, we're gonna see also a video of the AUV.
Oh, yeah. Let me see. Oh, there's a couple of dolphins playing in our wake. together. And so, of course, we had to pause there and all jump into the water. And this is where I mentioned that mesh, we made sure we wore a but yeah, to the left is tomorrow, to the right is yesterday. We should add north is the northern hemisphere, and the south is the southern hemisphere. The tradition is that after you do this, you're no longer a polywog, you're now a shellback, according to ancient mariner traditions. So we'll get a certificate. And then after we saw this guy in the same spot that we were in, we all lost interest in going swimming. Yeah, it's a white-tip shark, and I'm told they don't realize. And then this is a pilot whale. He just cruised along, not very photogenic. They kind of dive down to see him for just a few seconds, and then they cruise along. Oh, yeah, there he goes. And that's it. Yeah. Oh, okay, is this the map you were talking about?
The others too, but please go ahead and tell us what this is.
Okay, so you see kind of a roundish area in the very bottom. Okay, that's Baker, and then just to the north of that, just a couple inches up, that's Howland Island. Both of those, like I say, are like Tarawa. They're just ancient volcanoes that barely get above the ocean surface. I think like by 10 feet. So there's not a lot of island there. And then if you look up to the left, and then 3 or 4 inches, that's not even an island. It's just a seamount that doesn't actually break the surface. So there's a lot of these things.
What did you use this map for?
Okay, so what we really did was, not on this one, but, well, we did it to a map just like this. We blocked off different areas where we thought that we might find the airplane. So we said, okay, we kind of, well, again, spiritedly discussed where the better odds of finding the airplane might be. And of course, I was completely wrong. We cruised out. We covered about 5,200 square miles of ocean bottom. So, you send the unit down, you would scan generally about 125 square miles in about a 36-hour window, and then you would bring it up and we swap out the batteries. It's basically an underwater Tesla, and you swap out the batteries. Yeah. It took us like 6 hours to swap them at the beginning, and then after they got better at it and got me out of there, 3 hours.
Did you scan the circle? Did you scan for 3 months?
Right, yeah. 80 days,
80
approximately, yeah. That 80 days, that subtracts visiting islands and stuff like that.
And so all that data goes somewhere?
Yes. Yeah, I have, let's see, about 98 terabytes of data. Around, yeah. So that's the AUV. It's about 24 feet long. I guess about 4.5 feet in diameter, and then it has the sonar arrays. It has a couple of computers that aren't that much different than a Dell desktop sitting there, and we drop her in the water and off she goes. And that's working on it inside. It's I'm not sure if that's going to go off here. We'll try and see what happens. Yes, it does. And this is a 19-inch. And then it'll take an hour and a half to get to the bottom, and then you hope you see your $7 million again. Inside the unit, there's 2 of these spheres. Those spheres are actually titanium, so the computer's sitting inside that, and that can handle the 6,000 meters of water pressure. So, yeah, I was kind of interested. It comes in 2 pieces, and there's no seal in between. It's just very nicely machined titanium that happens to seal really well. So, and then right behind there's basically a hard drive inside of a canister that we take out and download all the information as soon as it got back. And this is what 6,000 meters of water pressure does to a styrofoam cup. And we got to understand we're out there, any cheap entertainment that we can get a hand on, we take advantage of. And so we put this thing in there, and you can see how much smaller it got. And any writing gets proportionally smaller. Now, those batteries there, you saw before there on the video, they're pulling those out. Those are 300 pounds each. Okay, so you got a winch and it's hanging for 300 pounds, and of course the boat's rocking. And so, these batteries are swinging about. So when they decided they needed help anymore, I was fine with that. And then this is what the dive plan looks like. They have a bunch of waypoints, and the unit just keeps on, for 36 hours, just keeps on scanning the bottom of the ocean, and that's where it's going. And then there's special waypoints where it comes back and it says, okay, I have this much battery, I'm at this depth, and this is where I think I am. And usually it's about 2 o'clock in the morning when I have to go out there and check that it's there. So, improve my usefulness every day. And that's the back of the boat. We had a camera crew along with us, and they got in a raft and took pictures of this from the backside. It was kind of a neat ship. The offshore excavator was all aluminum, which makes it a little bit lighter and a little more fuel efficient.
So what all did you carry with you?
Well, okay, so that container right there is the one that had all the support equipment to make the AUV go. And you can see we're winching it back in there. And then behind it's a smaller container that had the computers, sort of a command center, if you will. And then we had yet another one on the other side that had all the spares. And so you have to have everything. Because the nearest island there, Tyre, was 3 days away, and that boat costs $15,000 a day. So you don't go running about. And of course, there's nothing on Tara anyway, really. I mean, they don't have spares or electronics. It's just not. So yeah, you really need to bring everything.
No Best Buy.
Yeah. No Best Buy check.
What about food? I remember you sharing something about.
Yeah, we had Ubi. He was our cook. And Ubi did a pretty good job. We had curry almost every day. Had enough curry for a bit. We had curried lamb, we had curried chicken, we had curried beef, white rice every day. So we ate pretty good, I remember the eggs in the morning were always very salty. So, I'm like, Ubi, you gotta stop it. You're killing me here. So what I did was one day I stole into the galley and I stole all the salt. And the next morning the eggs weren't so salty.
I think you mentioned that, was it 5 tons of beef? Was it?
Oh, we had over a ton of beef. Well, not beef, but meat in particular, yeah.
And that was on the boat?
Yeah, there was a couple of big freezers, and we kept it, all frozen, and we would pull it out every so often and thaw out something, and
Incredible. 1 ton for 6 guys.
yeah.
For 3 months.
Yeah. Well, of course, you run out of fresh vegetables, so that's where you drop by the different islands every so often.
Here, what are we looking at?
Okay, so after the mission, we go down and we sit there and we go over all the data. And it could be 3 or 4 hours going over the data, depending on how complicated the ocean floor is. If it's smooth and there's hardly anything there, we can go through it in maybe 3 hours. If it's complicated, a lot of volcanoes, which we do find, then you have to, is that rock? Well, it doesn't have wings on it, can't be an airplane. So you just keep on going through everything. And again, you get some spirited debates, as to, could that possibly be it? Could be laying on its side, could be on its wingtip. There's all kinds of possibilities. So you keep keep on going over all this. And we tagged a lot of targets. And there's things you see down there, it's like, what it was. But, you know, I don't think we passed up anything. Okay, now, here you see this, the top there is, it's like a flashlight with all the orange there. The science, the technology, the application is almost identical to an ultrasound. So you look at that and, you know, the only difference is the distance and the frequencies, but it's almost identical to an ultrasound. And so that's where we're going over. There's something of interest and we're digging into it a little bit further. And here, this is all those things you just saw all knitted together, and those lines, that's back and forth where it went, and they knitted all this together. And I kind of liken it to looking down on the Sahara Desert, you know, from this air, and it's just, you know, just strange topology. On the right there, you see those three circles, they're kind of rings. Those are old volcanoes from way back, you know, millions of years old.
Is this Helen?
It's not at Howland, it's nearby though.
Nearby, okay.
Oh, let me go back. And now, see over there on the left side, you see that black triangle. That's what we call a holiday, where there's a hill there at the beginning of it, the broad end of it, you know, triangle. And so that's a shadow that's been cast. God forbid the airplane was in there. And then this is Marta Harold's handiwork. That is Howland Island, and that's an area we scanned over there. And so we put it all together. And it's kind of neat undersea picture, I thought. So I kind of like it. And that's a small boat in the big ocean. Okay, drone shot. Big ocean.
It's a great shot.
Yeah, and well, you can see the three containers back there, and then just this magnificent, giant expanse of ocean. And it's just amazing how big that is. I mean, you think about all the land out there, you know, there's 3 times as much water. And so I try very hard not to take these sorts of things for granted, but every night, just a beautiful sunset, and so I try to not take that for granted, and then I call my sweetie there with the video phone because we had Starlink, and so the internet connection was actually very good, and so I'd call her with the, hopefully that sort of thing in the background, or that.
They're beautiful images.
And bird flying along. Yeah, and it's always different, very different. I kind of like that one, so the rays there. And this must be fairly early because my beard isn't as long yet. Yeah, it's just amazing to look out there. And here you can see the containers.
Containers. Let's move to, here we go.
Oh yeah, then this is the money shot.
So explain when you found this.
Yeah, this was kind of a weird thing. What happened was we were pretty much done. We were coming back, we were out of resources, we were out of food, out of patience, out of fuel, out of everything. And we were coming back, and Craig, he was going to delete some old files that got corrupted. It was like, you know, and he uncorrupted, I don't know how he did it, but he uncorrupted this file and looked at it and went, I got something here. And so he called Elvis, and we looked at it, and we're like, oh, we got to go back. And we will, just a little bit. It wasn't dead. We will go back somewhere in the next 6 months. Get a better look at this.
It seems to fit the specifications.
Yeah, the dimensions are good. Some people have said, oh, look, it's got swept wings. The sonar guys, you know, you look up, there's what they call geometric distortion, depending on the angle you look at it, and also you know, just the way the sonar goes across it, you know, things don't end up at the right angles they should. But we think this is very promising. We're not going to say this Yeah, probably within the next 6 months, hopefully before the end of the year. We got an upgraded camera. Our camera had broken on us. So we got a new camera on there, and we'll go take a look see.
Can we go?
Is that the resume?
Well, and Lloyd was mentioning that this next team will likely be a little smaller than the original crew.
Yeah, believe it or not, we may actually be on a smaller boat. I lobby for a bigger boat. Okay.
So, in the event that this is Amelia's plane, what happens next?
A lot of legal wrangling. Yeah, there's different folks that are going to come out of the woodwork that are going to have claims to it. I'm hoping that everybody be adults about it, and not always the case. I think everybody agrees ultimately it belongs in the Smithsonian. I don't think anybody argues with that. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. We wanted to see it there. Now the path that it takes to get there, I don't know how that's going to look. And then also getting it out of the ocean. That's not a common skill set. There's could be some artifacts in there that we would really would like to see. There was first aid covers. That she was carrying the mail. First aid covers. Amelia's.
So it sounds like there are some specific things you'll be looking for.
Yeah, we want to know. What frequency was her radio tuned to? She was going to change frequencies right when she said, wait. That was the last word. Wait. Did she change frequencies like she said she was going to? Are the hatches open? Did she get out? Did Fred get out? There's a lot of questions. And I'm afraid that we find the airplane, I'm sure there'll be more questions that we can't answer, but there'll be better questions.
Well, I have two more questions before we break for the next part. The first one, the first one is, have you been in touch with Amelia's family?
I haven't personally, but Anthony has. They're certainly interested in knowing what's going on. There were some questions about it. They may have sold off the interest on the plane. There's some things like that, so I don't know exactly how that works. We want to keep them in the loop. They're obviously should be involved.
And what about the autonomous vehicle? Are you going to be using it for does it have other applications?
Yeah, this is actually, he started a real business with that. Deep Sea Vision isn't just about the Amelia Earhart project. There are other projects, and he has done some other things for other entities. So it's real.
Can you share anything about?
Well, I'll tell you, there are entities. Let's see, how do I put this? There's certain things that go on the ocean floor. Like there's oil and gas down there. There's nodules that have minerals like cobalt, lithium, things that we have to buy from other countries and that are available right here. So there's what they call deep sea harvesting to gather up these minerals. So there's a lot of interest in that. There are
A great deal of many applications.
Yeah, and some of it is navies. And of course, we're careful to make sure it's only friendly navies.
Well, I know you were all very eager to ask your own questions. So first of all, let's take a little bit of a break, and so we can mark our birthday celebration.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Amelia. Happy birthday to you. So Alicia has the microphone. Please raise your hand if you have a question for our guest.
Hi. Some of the other things that you guys might be going down to get, I just learned recently that steel before 1945 is a commodity that people go after because hasn't been exposed to radiation from the atomic bombs. Is that some of the things that you're also going after? Or no?
No, we haven't done any of that. I know what you're talking about, where the steel is used for instrumentation, and where you need very sensitive and you can't have any radiation contamination. We haven't been involved in that. We will look for some wrecks, but not for the purpose of recovery. And we don't have our equipment isn't capable of disturbing anything on the ocean bottom. We can find stuff, hopefully, but not disturbing things.
I have two questions for you, and they're both about the vehicle, the underwater vehicle.
Sure.
When it's mowing, mowing the lawn on the ocean floor, how wide a swath is it looking at?
Yeah, good question. It does 800 meters on either side and 200 meters underneath it. So, so you're looking at about almost a mile and a half.
That's a lot. The second question is, you said the more of these vehicles they build, the better they get. What number did you get?
We got the latest one. Well, actually, you bring up another interesting point. They actually did retrofit some of the stuff, some of the updates. So we got the advantage of some of the updates that we were really early being 2 years old. And so they upgraded the batteries, upgraded some different things. My brother actually, with a little bit of foresight, wrote that into the contract. Did I mention this, lawyer?
Hi, you were great. I can only imagine the placement of this, where this the potential plane is a very highly guarded secret. Is there protection for it now, whether it's digital or whatever, that people aren't going to go and try to?
The only protection is that nobody knows where it is.
Well,
I know
that's
myself.
Oh, so you never felt there was any need to have
Well,
that?
to go down 5,000 meters takes some special equipment, and then to actually pull it up. I'm not too worried about somebody going out. Now, myself, I'm just willfully ignorant because I just don't want to know. That way, if it got out, I'm above suspicion. I can't tell you, I won't tell you, or I won't tell you, I can't tell you about it.
I was just watching on Gold Rush that this young man was going to Papua New Guinea to look for an adventure plane underwater that his grandfather had worked on. Now, how common is it to find airplanes under the water around that region?
You mean around Papua New Guinea?
Yeah.
I don't think it would go that tough. It's probably not as deep as, around Howland.
Right.
The shallower it is, the easier things get. Unfortunately, you also get more corrosion up towards the surface. The nice thing about 5,000 meters is that the oxygen gets squeezed out of the water, and so there's less corrosion.
So without giving away where that image came from, does it make sense to you? You were saying that the ship was tracking and you could hear her and there were logbooks. And you also said, though, that this wasn't a corrupted file that you merely threw out. So does it make sense to you now when you look at those logbooks and where it's located that it tracks for something that is in an area that you expect her to be in, or the plane to be in?
Yeah, we always felt from looking at the logs and looking at all the evidence that and what she said even, that they just missed it. If they probably had like the half hour of fuel or something like that, they probably would have found it. I really believe, she said, we're on you, but we can't see you. And then the operators, the signal was so strong they could hear it, that some of them actually ran out of the Radio Shack on the boat and said, where they were looking around and saying, oh, she must be like
So does the technology already exist to bring up the plane?
Yes. Yeah, they can be done. It's not easy, and like I said, there's only so many folks out there that have that skill set. Now there's bringing up planes and there's bringing up planes. There is some where they just bring it up because, you know, there's secrets on board and they just want to salvage it. They don't care what they do to the plane. This is far different. This needs to be done carefully, and everything needs to be reserved. And we really need to document the site before anything is disturbed at all. So yeah, it's sort of, well, like, I don't know if you ever gone to see the Magellan site for the Titanic, where they actually have the whole area in 3D. You can actually fly around the Titanic and see what's going on. And I think they took something like 60,000 pictures or something phenomenal number, and then knitted them all together. And I think that's similar to what needs to be done for the air. Right, yeah, we need to, yeah. Because there's going to be questions, and everyone's going to want to know.
That's actually a perfect segue. Do you happen to know or have any contact with James Cameron, or do you like trade secrets with anybody?
Well, no. My brother did talk to him briefly. Believe it or not, the company I worked for at Opto 22, we dealt with Mr. Cameron because we built some of the equipment that he used for his deep sea Challenger submarine. I don't think he's, well, if he shows interest, then we'll talk to him. But yeah, I think he's got his own projects.
I have a question. There were a lot of battles fought in that area, the Battle of Tarawa. Did you run across any other planes that were down? There must be hundreds of planes down there.
If you get close to Tarawa, yes, there's plenty of stuff. There's also several ships that went down over there. But Howland Islands, let's see, it was a 3-day cruise, and so 3 times 15, yeah, it's about 600 miles away. So yeah, around Howland, there's almost nothing. You know, there was a seaplane that crashed on the island, but it is actually on the island. We never found any other ships or planes around Howland itself.
I know we don't know just why they got lost, but can you speculate a little on just how she and Fred? I read Elgin Long's book, where he said headwinds made them late. His last star sight at night was too long into the daylight to have them walk. So their dead reckoning really wandered off because of the headwind and burning fuel, etc. What can we blame this on?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd like to give kudos to Eldon Long. He wrote an excellent book. It's probably the best research book out there. He's got like 60 pages of references. It's really kind of incredible. He worked on that for like 20 years, so he deserves a lot of credit in universities. The dead reckoning, very possibly. The winds at altitude are different than the winds at sea level, and then she was down to 1,000 feet, so the winds could have been quite different. They could have. Though, and then also, see, they were approaching the island in the morning, and so that means you only have the sun to get a fix. It's not really a fix; it's a sun line. So you're on a line, but you don't know where. And so between that and dead reckoning, it was kind of a tough call. So yeah, you don't know whether they missed it to the east or to the west. You know, it depends on how Fred was doing his calculations.
I guess the weather was worse than forecast, though. That's one of the things that should have really set them back.
Yeah, what the Itasca said was that there
but have you shared or do you intend to share your data with historians or with other scientists who could benefit from the kind of information that you've gathered?
Yeah, we will be sharing some of it. We have actually, believe it or not, in the community, there's guys like Gary Book, Deb Wilder, there's actually more cooperation than, I realize, and they all realize, there's dependents, everybody'd like to find it first. But there actually is quite a bit of cooperation and sharing of data, so it's not as, competitive, everything. We all talk, and we actually called some of these guys while we were out there on the ship, and gotta love that Starlink. It was wonderful to talk to these guys.
That was the only way you could communicate with Starlink? Is that your
There was other stuff, but once you got Starlink and you got internet connection, video calls, Zoom. We did Zoom calls out there, and we plan to do more on the next one. There's the different, some of the schools, high schoolers, were interested in, I think Amelia would even like that to inspire kids to get involved.
And this is a comment instead of a question. Maybe Bob Bell is a good guy to talk to.
Yes, we've talked to him. Yeah, my brother's actually spoken to him. He's a good guy.
All right, we have time for 2 more questions, and I just want to thank everyone for coming. Please help yourself to cake, and it's last call on the bar. So you can back here.
So when you saw those images, was it several days after you had actually made the dive for those? And did you keep going after you saw it, but you may not be sure where you had?
Well, we were finished. We were headed back to Samoa for some other work, and so we thought we were completely done. The images that we showed you there actually had been several weeks before. We just, brought the data, we'll worry about it later, that kind of thing. And then on the way back, I guess he had some time to work through all these different files that, we pretty much given up on. And so I can't tell you the exact date or where, obviously, but it was much later. Yeah, we really wanted to go back.
Maybe this is a good one to end on. Can you talk a little bit about how you financed it?
Basically, my brother sold off his real estate business. He sold off, he had worked in the commercial real estate for, I'm thinking somewhere around 15 years, and this wasn't his only business. He had done a real estate, residential real estate business before that. So he has to do things, and then he decided, time to start another chapter in my life. And so we started this business, and so that's how it was financed. Right, we didn't go for any investors. There are some folks that have done it that way. We felt that it gave us more credibility, being, self-financed. So we're not going to anybody with a hat cans and, invest in our quest.
Phyllis wants to know if you'll take some of us women on the next trip. Phyllis wants to know if you'll take some of us women on the next trip.
Sure.
I think, Stacy, we need to reinvigorate the travel